All right, it is time to talk about another Shannon Reads Those Books book with Lord of the Flies by William Golding. I don't even know how this one's gonna go, folks. Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm here to talk about another book that I read for my Shannon Reads Those Books exploration. If this project is unfamiliar to you, it is something that I started back in 2014, where I set out to read a bunch of classic, iconic, zeitgeist, influential, referential, referenced books within that I hadn't read. The goal of this is to sort of like gain cultural context for lots of books that are talked about and went on to influence other things, of which this title I'm sure did, and also to increase my reading comprehension, because at that time I wasn't reading a lot. Like I was reading a lot, but anyway, so it was one of the goals. I think I've achieved that goal for sure. And although we can always continue to increase our reading comprehension. So this is going to be a bit of a rocky ride. So let's just get this party started. So here we go. Lord of the Flies by William Golding. This is the 46th book that I have read for the Shannon Reads Those Books exploration. And it was published in 1954. It makes the list for being on two different lists, both the Modern Library Book of 100 Best Novels. It's number 41 on that. It's also number 70 on the BBC Big Read. And this one, actually, interestingly enough, in terms of genre, on Wikipedia, it's classified as allegory, which is kind of reassuring. But I'll get to that in a sec. Allegory is usually like more like distance from reality, so I'm actually glad that it's classified as allegory, which I guess it can mean different things, but generally it means it's saying something. It's a message. It's giving a message, but often it's less clear because it's usually. I always think of allegory as things like Watership Down or like Animal Farm, where the characters are animals. That's actually interesting. That's actually interesting with this one. Um, I read this in April 2019, and I'm actually going to leave this title unrated. I'm not going to give a rating for this. Normally in these videos, I've been giving ratings out of 10, and on Goodreads, I leave ratings out of 5 because that's what they let you do. And on my spreadsheet, I do it out of 10, but I don't got nothing for this one. I really don't. I don't know what I would base my rating on, and so I'm just going to leave it unrated. So if you're completely unfamiliar with this book, it is set on an island, and it centers on a bunch of kids, a bunch of boys that are left stranded, not left, like they are stranded on an island. And they are quite young. They were definitely younger than I anticipated. I have like this is one of those titles that I feel like you just generally have a sense of what it's about. But I had never read it before. I didn't read it in school. Reread, I think, The Pearl, which has some similar themes, but is it less harsh? I don't know. But I think a lot of people do read this one in high school. So yeah, so why did I choose this? I actually read this during Grinchathon, which is a readathon, and it actually totally works out because it's got a big green G here for Golding. And one of the prompts for Grinchathon was to read a dark title. So I chose Lord of the Flies, and it definitely meets that prompt. Without question. And I also chose it because the readathon was towards the end of the month, and I wanted to see if I can get those books in before my May title, which is going to be Moby Dick. So I wanted something short that I could read within a week, which I did. I read it in sort of like 4 or 5 days. Yeah, so success on that end. So that's why I chose it. Otherwise, it probably would have left till like the last titles if I ever make it through this entire list, which I probably won't. That's not the goal. The goal, it's more of an exploration. So yeah, it probably would have waned and not gotten chosen. I didn't really have a huge, other than the cultural context piece of the fact that it's influenced other stuff, the story doesn't appeal to me. So yeah. Anyway, on to the next question. Did I understand it? I would say mostly. There were definitely things in this book that I found hard to understand. One of the challenges I found, and this happened throughout the entire novel, is that we have lots of dialogue without the speakers being indicated. And sometimes I think this is done at the beginning And I think sometimes it might be intentional for the fact that, like, at the beginning, the characters are getting to know each other. So, they don't know who each other is. And then, but as it went on, like, there is a sort of like fervor, like mentality that I don't know. I don't know whether it was like, of course it's an intentional choice, but is an intentional choice to be confusing? I'm not sure. So that I found confusing throughout. I also found that there were some things that I wasn't sure what exactly was going on, because there is a strong sense of unknown and fear, fear of the unknown, believing or not believing in something, like that is present throughout. So I felt like there were things like that that I did not feel that they were clear. Did something exist that they were talking about, or were people trying to create fear, or were people trying to quell fear? I could not tell what the reality of the situation is, and I think again that's intentional to sort of like the theme of the story. But I did read the Wikipedia page, and they were like, some of the things were like, this meant this, and I was like, oh well, I thought that was sort of like up for debate. Or I thought like it was something else. Like I was just like, so I don't know. This is one of the challenges of reading titles like this without reading it in school or reading it within a group, is that it's just kind of like, and also some things are subjective. So I don't know, like, is this the generally accepted thing, like what's on Wikipedia, or is that just one interpretation of said thing? In particular with this book, what I'm referring to, so I guess I'll give a little bit of spoilers with this one. I was referring to the Beast, and like, did the Beast exist or not? I felt like that was unclear, and then it felt very clear, but then it didn't feel clear what the Beast was, and it felt like it could have been different things at different times. And I think part of that is supposed to be fear of the unknown, but then where it goes is like worse, is worse, very worse. So I found that confusing, whether or not the Beast was something, one thing, everything, fear, or the genre. Is it allegory? Is it being used allegorically? So I don't know. Question number, these aren't numbered. The next question is, did I enjoy it? You can probably tell by my tone, no, I did not enjoy this at all. There was literally nothing about this that I liked. And I find it scary to think that this is like, I don't know, like I find it hard to understand what this is giving us. Like, I can understand it as a message, as a cautionary tale message, but I don't actually feel like it is, because I don't feel like it's presenting, a situation where this may or may not happen, or multiple outcomes could be. I feel like it's really saying, like, if a bunch of people were stranded on an island, or a bunch of boys or a bunch of men, this is what would end up happening. And I find what ends up happening horrific. So I don't feel like, it feels like technically it's a cautionary tale, but I don't feel like it's saying that. I think it's saying, like, this is what people would do, and I don't believe that. Like, of course, some, like, could it happen? Maybe, I don't know. But I just think it's horrifying to feel like, even thinking that this is what people would succumb to, and just no. No, I did not enjoy it. Did not enjoy it. The next question is, was it what I expected? Yes and no. Like, I knew the general premise of like a kid stranded on the island. There were two pieces here that I didn't know, that I don't know if that would have been helpful going in. So these are minor spoilers for setting, I guess. And that is that the characters are younger than I expected. Like, I feel like there's this sort of there's like sort of three to seven, eight main characters, and there's sort of two sets. There's the older kids who are like, I don't even know, like 11, 12, and then there's like the youngins who are really young, like 6. And I had no idea that there was going to be characters that young, and I find that what happens even more horrific, that there's characters that are that young. So it wasn't what I expected in that point. And the other part I wasn't expecting was that it's set sort of after like there's some kind of war going on, and that changes the for me that changes the perspective in terms of the hope that the outside world may provide help, and if like it makes it their situation not only being stranded is horrifying, like scary, but the fact that who knows, maybe they are the last 20 people on Earth. Like it's possible. Like it felt like the war that was inferred was that epic, and that they not only could not necessarily get help, but like they could be it. Like if the last of humanity ends up being these kids, like we're really in trouble. So, but it wasn't what I was expecting from that point of view. Will I read more from this author? Probably not. I don't know. Like this is, I think this is pretty much known of what he's known for. So this is like the book, but I don't actually. I didn't look that up. I did read some of the Wikipedia page, which I'm going back and forth on whether or not I feel better or not for doing, because I didn't used to. I used to just go with these are my impressions, and these videos are more my impressions than reviews. This is helping me process my experience of reading the book, and it's really helping with this one because I am, or maybe not, I don't know, I'm struggling with this one. It is the first one that I'm leaving unrated for a book like ever, and also it's one of the ones where I'm like, I really like, I think I'll get over how I feel about this and I won't let it affect me. But it does make me sad to think that this is what people think of humanity, even as a cautionary tale. And even worse, that people think that people would do this, succumb to this kind of violence, and aggressive behavior. And I also feel like I don't quite understand why it's like it kind of freaks me out that it's taught at like in high school. Like, is that really a great time to talk about this stuff? Like, I don't know. Like as I mentioned, we read The Pearl, which has similar themes of power, but a different impact, like a different, but it's about money more so, and value. And this is more about like life, and I find it strange. And I've gotten several comments. I think the two sides of the coin that I've gotten in terms of comments on this is that people were very strongly negatively affected by reading it, and also that how scary, how true it could be. And I'm just like, it just hurts my heart to think that people feel like, yeah, this is what's going to happen. No, no, I have more hope for humanity, than succumbing to this kind of thing. So I don't know. So as I mentioned, this one has been a challenging read. It is one that I also go back and forth on how much do I want to read up on it and see what people's impressions of it are, or is it really like, is it strongly noted that it's a message and, doesn't believe that this would happen or that people do. And I actually don't feel that inclined to continue to research that because I know how I feel, because I don't think that this would happen, and I have more hope for humans than this. But it does, one of the things it does also let me know is that it definitely influenced other books, and like the whole, like survival is a whole genre, in literature and in fiction, and it's not my favorite. Like it is probably my least favorite or second least favorite, and because there's always such horrible things, and I find that it's so sad that people, like, we continue to get this idea that, or see films, shows, books that show the digression, and I'm just like, it's just, can't we do better? Can't we do better than that? So anyway, those are my thoughts on Lord of the Flies. It was a tough one. It was a tough one. It's probably the toughest read in terms of content. There's other books that I just straight up didn't like or didn't understand. That's happened. But this one I feel strongly about the content, and and I still do. I still do. I'm going to be processing that for a bit, but probably only a little bit, and then I'm going to think I'm going to wash it away because I do know how I feel about it. So let me know how you feel about titles like this. Do you feel like this is a cautionary tale and that's it, or that, no, people would do this? Maybe don't tell me that. I don't know if I want to know that. But yeah, so yeah, interesting, interesting. First unrated book. Because I don't necessarily, like, I don't feel like it's I'm not judging it on quality or on message or on enjoyment. I don't, I'm just leaving it as unrated. That's a first. There we go. So next up, eventually, will be Moby Dick. Hopefully that one will go better. Thank you so much for watching.